Carrere. They're talking about Bob Carrere?
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
To Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday in Politicsville again. Again. We got a great example again of political duplicity at the local and state level. Again. How many times do we tell you about and we just talked the other day about how in Boston nobody knows what they do. And every once in a while it comes out. The proposed road over the Fall River Rail Trail has its twists and turns by Joe Good. Well, it twisted and turned, but it always has the same result. Politicians sticking their greedy little fingers into the mix and making sure that their campaign contributors and their friends get exactly what they want, regardless of what they say. Do you remember when we talked about the mayor saying, there will be no road? Well, it was an election.
That's right. That was just before an election.
Just before an election. Yo, you spoke and we heard you. BS.
And he was hoping people would forget.
A big, giant pile of BS again. They knew the whole time. The whole time. This has been going on since 2013, and a developer, a guy who's going to be making millions of dollars with his facility, now gets a road through a public entity that was made for the entertainment of the people of this area, and they get to bulldoze it, and you know that song, and they made it a parking lot.
That's right.
They took Paradise, and they made it a parking lot. Well, they had every intention before that rail trail was completed to screw it up.
But here's a quote. Here's a quote you have to say. This is from Matt Thomas, who is the city attorney in regards to properties. Yeah. I make no bones about it. It was not done by accident.
Well, really? Well, I mean, he had to make that statement because they got caught with their not their hand in a cookie jar, their entire body.
But here's where
they dove into the cookie jar and just swined out.
But here's where people are questioning whether he's speaking the truth or not.
Yeah.
It was done on purpose with the full support of the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Mass DOT, and the city to make sure it got done.
No, that's not correct. It's a half-truth.
That's right.
As our city, anybody that works for this city is great at doing, telling half-truths, which are also half-lies, and they're more duplicitous than a lie because they're attempting to convince you that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Now, I'm going to quote from this article. In emails obtained by open record requests and identified during the council meeting, the advocate who changed the opinion of the state was our favorite senator.
Michael Rodrigues.
Senator Michael Rodrigues, the man who went to New Hampshire to buy his liquor after he passed the liquor tax, the guy who's always got his finger in something, and he never virtually runs unopposed all the time. Wake up, people, wake up. That's all they do up there. They collect their paychecks, give themselves pay raises.
And he's going to be collecting a nice
and
big
take care of their
pension.
friends. And wait a minute, I got to finish that paragraph. The advocate was identified as State Senator Michael Rodrigues. The Carrick family has been a donor over the years to Rodrigues' campaign fund. What a surprise. What a surprise.
Hey, government can be bought and paid for.
Yeah, and you know, the article goes on to say, you know, they attempted to rescind, they attempted to rescind their ability to make the road, and Correa vetoed it earlier. And then it goes on again. Correa, who pointed out that no road would be built. And then it goes on, this is a quote, "It's a complex issue with a lot of emotions," unquote, Mayor Correa said. No, it isn't. It isn't complex. There may be a lot of emotion, but it's not complex. It's pretty damn simple.
You were paid off, and you want to get the road.
You got paid off. You could, and look, Mike Roderick, look, I don't even, as much as it irritates me, it doesn't bother me, because that's what he's been his entire life. A political hooker. I can't use the other word because we know that, we get scolded when we use that word. But that's what he's been his whole life. That's what he does up there. He's interfered and manipulated stuff for a very, very long time. Not for the good of the public. But the city is duplicitous. You've got the mayor saying that trail won't be built, then he vetoes it, then he talks about emotion. No, it's not. It's simple political pragmatism. You were in a tank from day one, and unlike Senator Rodericks, who doesn't care because he's going to get elected no matter what he does, no matter how heinous it is. He's got the money, he's got the power, he's got the position up there, and that's the way it works, unfortunately, because the voters will not rise up and start the revolution that needs to be started. But our mayor does what he does best, talks out of both sides of his mouth and his rear end at the same time. This city, he made this big plea. I've heard you. I feel your pain. There will be no road. There will be no easement. There will be, because there's an election coming. And just like everything else, as soon as the election was over, see you later, bye. Here comes the easement, because I'm sure that the Carrick family has filtered money into his campaign, too.
Well, what's interesting is, if you look at the closing of Joe Good's article,
yeah.
It says here that the Council Finance Committee tabled the matter with City Councilor Joe Camara abstaining with no explanation.
Well, I got an explanation.
So do I. He got money.
That's right.
He got money.
And his brother got a job.
And his brother got a job.
And his brother got a job. I got an explanation for abstaining with no explanation. It's pretty easy. I mean...
What's sad is that all 9 city councilors, all of them, are guilty of this.
Yeah. They have no courage. Just as with our last show on Friday, we talked about their lack of courage when they tried to impose the burden of enforcing something that they couldn't enforce. They hired, as I said, they hired enforcement officers. They've paid them. They've got pay and benefits. They're going to get that pay back because they couldn't enforce it for 5 years. And when the government couldn't do what they shifted the burden to the property owners, and now they're going to fine them, put liens on their houses, and do all this other ridiculousness because the government, again, in the ultimate Peter principle, they reached their level of incompetency when they even passed the ordinance.
Well, what's really funny is that Stephen Long couldn't even generate enough support.
That's right. But the thing that gets me is they don't even have the courage to vote no. Half of them just sat there like dummies.
I know.
And that's the thing that irritates. Well, we went over that. But again, Joe Camara abstained with no explanation. Of course there's going to be no. What is he going to do? Stand up in front of the camera and say, oh, by the way, I'm bought and paid for? You see? It's like, yeah, see the stamp on my head? Bought and paid for. Again, there's a total disregard for anything. And, it's bad enough that the taxpayers fundamentally funded this rail trail because it was state money, and we pay state taxes too. Everybody in the state funded this thing. And there were funds utilized for this. And then it shows how deep and pervasive this state and all government is. And why? Because you can't get rid of these ticks. They stay in power forever, and they become absolute monarchs.
And that's your fault.
And that's right. And that is the voters' fault.
That's right. It's their fault.
Because this is what happens. The EPA, the EAA, every acronym you want to use, they all said no initially. Because at first, when it came across their desk, they said, oh, public land, a private entity. Now, then all of a sudden, campaign contributions, money, whispering in all the politicians' ears. And then what happens? Oh, Senator Roderick walks in a room, whispers in somebody's ear. They call up the EPA. Oh, this is Senator Roderick. You know, okay. And all those politically appointed clowns that work in most of those organizations, they work for the state now. But they don't really work for the state. They work for the politicians who got them their jobs. And so they all crumbled like cookies, like our city council did. This is what's wrong, people. What's wrong is who we've got in. Remember, I'm going to give you the paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase one of my favorite quotes again from Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. Politicians are like diapers. They're full of the same thing, and they have to be changed often. And that's the key. The key to straightening this country out, straightening this city out, and straightening this state out is voter-imposed term limits. We tried for term limits, but the politicians beat that back because they're politically appointed judges. We can't get them to ask us for a pay raise anymore. They automatically get one. They just manipulate everything in their favor. And I'm speaking from experience because I remember the fire chief, the infamous fire chief, when they went to contract, when the so-called president of the union who took political appointments and everything else got appointed fire chief. The city violated the law. We proved it. Because once we got those petitions, and we did get those, secure the number of required signatures to basically make that action by the city council null and void in accordance with the law. They were supposed to stop his promotion. But what did they do? They changed it over to civil service. Then you got Flanagan making them. All these were all political moves by Flanagan and by Carrere. Bob Carrere, who spent 30 years up there on the Hill, we went up there because they were gonna pass special legislation to allow it that overrode the law. And the only way they could do it was do it virtually instantaneously before we got to court. And guess what? We all went up to Boston to testify, to show them the laws and everything else. And we were going to have a big hearing before this joint committee between the House and the Senate. And we all sat in this hearing room, and it was, oh boy, oh yeah. And you know when I knew we didn't have a chance? When we left for Boston. But you know what confirmed it? When the door opened from the back room, and all the people on the committee came filing out, led by who? Bob Carrere, the mayor of the city of Fall River, shaking hands with all the reps and the senators he used to work with. Then we experienced the kangaroo court where the law and the people and what the people of Fall River wanted was trampled on. Again. They're all still there. It got done, and look what happened. For once, it blew up in their face, and they had to change it back to civil service. But, you know, you see stuff like this, and you wonder, and people, you know, I hear complaints every day, and so do you, CJ, I know that. I was in the market the other day. Somebody walked up to me and said, I'm so, I watch your show all the time. He said, you guys are the only people not afraid to tell it like it is. And we really need that. I said, no, what we really need is people to get to the polls and change this. And when you see stuff like this, I mean, this stuff goes over years. This wasn't like thought up in a back room, 2 hours before the council meeting. We're talking about 5 years of insidious political planning to completely ignore the law, to completely change the rulings and the opinions of state organizations that are there to protect the environment. And they protect nothing except their political butts and their politically appointed butts. And guess what? Senator Rodriguez will stop at New Hampshire, grab some liquor, come back to Westport, and put his feet up and laugh, because he'll go, you can talk all you want. I'm not even going to have any opposition, and if I do, I'll bury him, because I got money, I got connections. And when I get done here, I'll probably get a job like Joe Menard did.
Of course.
And I'll even bump up my already great pension. So you think they care? No, they don't. You know when they'll start caring? When you boot them out so hard that flames come out of their derrieres. Then they'll start worrying about it. When they know that unless they listen to the people and abide by the Constitution that they're sworn to uphold, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts' Constitution, with our favorite section, they're never going to care. Because guess what? They're going to cash their paychecks and laugh all the way to the bank or to their next function when all these people like the Carrig family go there and hand them a check.
And the thing is that they're in office for so long so they can collect a pension.
Yeah.
Maybe if the state voters got together and said, you know what? We're going to remove elected officials from the pension system.
Yeah, well,
by a public vote. I wonder how they'd handle that.
Yeah, well, or at least give them the same criteria where you have to spend at least 10 years to be vested, and if you spend less than 30, you get a prorated pension. Well, guess what? I mean, look at Carrera was up there for 30 years anyway. He would have stayed. Just goes to show, they're like ticks. But what's worse than our federal government? In Congress, you walk in, you go like this, your butt hits the chair, you got a pension.
That's it.
You got a pension. You got health care for life. You got a pension for life. And people go, why did that guy take that appointment to the Congress and when he wasn't going to run to fill the vacant seat? Why is there so much political jockeying for these appointments to fill these vacancies? It's because when you go there, you got a retirement check for life, and it's a pretty decent retirement check, and and you got health care, the best health care in
that money can't buy.
That our money can buy, not their money. That
exactly.
Our money can buy.
But what's interesting is in Massachusetts we used to have it where it was always elected. Yep. Then the Democrats wanted it to be appointed. Mm-hmm. When they had a Democratic governor, yep. They wanted it to be appointed. So they changed the law to have it appointed. But when they got a Republican governor and there was another seat open, they wanted to change, and they changed it back to being elected.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Because they didn't want a Republican appointed to that position.
But the people in this state they keep reelecting them. And when was the last time we had a Republican majority in the state of Massachusetts in the House or the Senate?
I don't remember one.
I don't think there was ever. I don't think that we'll have to look that up. For our next show, we'll try to research.
We are such a blue state that we're almost purple.
Yeah, I mean, and it's ironic because we've had a lot of Republican governors, but I mean, they're basically impotent because you can't get anything, and you got the House, and like you say, they're so obviously political. When they got to a point who they wanted, they made it they could appoint them, and then when it was a Republican, they go, oh, we don't want a Republican appointed, so we're going to, they changed the law back and forth, and they changed the criteria, they changed everything to suit their own political agendas. That's what's wrong. And look, I'm not a Republican, I'm an independent. But the reality is, as I've said numerous times, the only difference between a Republican and a Democrat, I'm an independent or an unenrolled or whatever euphemism you want to call us. I voted on both sides in primaries on both sides, and I always vote in the final elections. I always have. The only difference between a Republican and a Democrat is that a Republican steals from the working man and gives it to the rich. And a Democrat steals from the working man and gives a little tiny bit back because that's his voting base. Otherwise, they wouldn't give you anything either.
And that's why immigration's such a big issue.
And that exactly. And
immigration's such a big issue because and now you see Boston is trying to make it so that illegals can vote.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look. If somebody from the federal government doesn't intercede, that violates the entire spirit of this nation.
Who cares?
What the hell? Why don't we just send ballots to Europe and Central America
and South
America? Send them to Russia.
There you
They're
go.
all worried about Russia interfering in the elections. Let them vote.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell? We're going to let illegals vote? I mean, that was basically a sacred right that you got. You couldn't wait to be old enough to vote, to participate in a political process. And now, mastard, we want to do, talk about overcompensation for everything, being so far left that they're right. They want illegals to vote. They want illegals with every right that an American who's paid taxes his whole life, was born here, or an American who naturalized themselves, waited to get into this country, studied and took an exam, has. And that, to me, is reprehensible. Probably if I was 20 years younger, I'd move to Australia just to get out of this place now. It's getting so bad, it's ridiculous. And we've got Americans dying in uniform every day in places like Afghanistan and Somalia, while we roll out the red carpet for people who have committed technically a crime. And I don't want to hear it. It's not a crime. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you come into this country illegally, you can change the name all you want. You can say undocumented. You didn't come in here legally. It's you committed a crime. It is a crime. You're not supposed to come into this country illegally. This is supposed to be a nation of laws. But the politicians, as we've proven again, from the top, from the very top with immigration, to the city of Fall River with the rail trail, and the state in changing all these state agencies' opinions by getting leveraged by a state senator. The country is broken. And as they said before, it's time to drain the swamp. It's time to drain the swamp. You got to get these people out, people. I mean, you just got to vote them out. It's totally out of control on all levels. Totally out of control. These people cannot do anything for your benefit because they protect themselves and their friends. I mean, even when it gets down to drunk driving, why do you think there's no super stringent mandatory penalties for drunk driving like there are in Japan or countries where they don't have drunken driving problems? It's because our legislature doesn't want one of their relatives or even themselves getting incarcerated because of a mandatory sentence. That's why we don't have that. Politics, again. So every time you turn on your news story and you see a story about a guy who just mowed somebody down, drunk or impaired, and it was his 8th or 9th offense, I've always said they should put the people, every judge who allowed this guy to walk without a prison sentence, they should put them in jail too. Go to Japan and try that. Go to try for a second offense for drunken driving in Japan or some of the other countries. I think there was one country that actually had the death penalty. I forgot which one it was, but I'm liking that place. But I know there are some that, like for second offense, you can get life. But, you know, this country is just, all we do now is make concessions, and everything's politics, as you said, CJ. It's about the Democrats pandering to their base. That's what makes this stuff an issue, and it should not be an issue. You know, what happened to the Me Too movement? I saw the other day, I read that, what's his name? What's his name? The Democrat, Nancy Pelosi's favorite buddy there. CJ.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's his name? Schumer? Chuck Schumer? Yeah. He verbally abused a flight attendant. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, where's the Me Too movement? Where's the hashtag Me Too? Are you ready for a liberal Democrat abused somebody and treated them less than a human? And where's the Me Too movement? Is he stepping up to resign? You know, Kevin Spacey can't get a movie anymore. The Papa John's guy got Papa John's. You know, the coffee industry had to take it closed for an entire day, all because political correctness. But when they do it, it's okay. Well, just so you know, on the drunk driving things, in Norway, DUI offenders are sentenced to 3 weeks in jail with hard labor. In Saudi Arabia, DUI offenses are punishable by lashes in the public square. In South Africa, DUI offenders are fined $10,000 and/or a 10-year prison sentence. Yeah, how many of them got $10,000 in South Africa? So it's a 10-year prison sentence. And in El Salvador, a DUI conviction can mean a death sentence. There you go. El Salvador, where people are escaping to the United States. That's right, so they can drive drunk. So they can drive. Oh, God. Without a license. Or come to Massachusetts and get one where they give illegal licenses. Well, in Rhode Island now, you can get an ID and a license. You don't got a problem. That's right. Well, as I said, if a state wants to do that, and we're talking about state autonomy, as far as I'm concerned, they're lucky that I'm not the president. Because if I was the president, I'd cut off federal aid. I agree. Okay, you know what? You don't want to abide by the federal laws. You don't want to abide by the policies of the federal government. You want to say you have state rights. You have autonomy as a state. You want to violate our laws. You don't get any of our money. I agree. So, you know, you want to do that. See how quickly Raimondo does a 180 when they tell him they're cutting off all the federal funding. I know. It's shameful. It really is. It is. But remember, everybody, when somebody gets run over on a rail trail with somebody driving to his condo, it's Mayor Correa's fault. That's right. It's Mike Roderick's fault. Because remember what he said. I feel your pain. And what else did he say? Yeah, he doesn't feel our pain. You know why? Despite Mayor Jazel Correa II's announcement in September 2017, that a private road would not be built across the rail trail. That was his statement. And I remember it vividly because I remember him saying, and what's September? I think it was just before the election. It's like the month before the election. Exactly before the election. Hey, stay angry, everybody. We can't make it any better than this. We can't, you can't make this stuff up. Can't make this stuff up. Hey, we'll see you on Wednesday. And remember, if you got a tip, send it to us. We'll follow up on it. Believe me, we dig deep. Have a great day, everybody. Yes. Stay cool.